Do you think it's safe to ask them?
Hear me, all you hosts gathered here.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
Well, I think we're about ready. Quiet, everyone.
Filth are my politics. Filth is my life.
From the whispers of the damned, deep within the bowels of hell. Welcome to Astro Radio Z.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Astro Radio Z. And unlike the last episode that we talked about, a very intense, very deep, very not super happy and fun movie, tonight we're going to talk about some stupid fucking cheap VHS movies with one, the 1989 George Eastman directed body horror science film Metamorphosis, and then Laser Mission starring the late Brandon Lee. I can't think of a better way to spend an Astro Radio Z in a night than to talk about some real cheapo shit. I was really excited to sit and watch these movies after last episode. Not saying, hey, I loved the movie we covered on the last episode, but man, here on Astro Radio Z, we don't tend to really talk about super deep movies. We like to talk about cheap shit, don't we? That's what we like here. But anyways, per our episode, like I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, when we talked about, we had my friend Evan Shelton on. VoidCon happened this last weekend, and I got to sit and hang out with my dear friend Daniel Edenfield, which all of you Astro Zombies should know from the Bottom Rack episodes back in the day. Unfortunately, those episodes are no longer with us here on the regular Astro Radio Z feed. If you wish to hear more of those episodes, please go over to the Astro Radio Z Patreon, subscribe. You'll get those Bottom Rack episodes with Dan, but he was on the last episode that I had with the Subspecies 5. So if you don't remember him, go over to the Subspecies 5 episode and give a listen. But anyways, we went there. God, it was a hell of a lot of driving I had to fucking do. It was in West Virginia. I am up here in the wilds of Wisconsin. So that was like a 10-hour drive. Get there, watch some fun movies, met some cool cats, shilled some fucking movies, showed Hole in the Wall, got to see Dan turn into like this synth wave fucking dungeon synth wizard that he calls himself Saragost. He played live at the after party, and then we hightailed it back home. It was a fun little weekend. I was exhausted though for about 3 days afterward. I feel like I'm finally back to normal, which is good because I need everything that I got in order for us to sit and talk about these VHS tapes tonight. So before we get to the VHS tapes, why don't we sit and watch a trailer, because we're going to talk about Metamorphosis. I can't believe that I didn't know going into this movie that this was directed by George Eastman, because man, I would have been so much more excited than I was going into this, and you'll see why I was so excited after we watch this trailer. So stick around for just a second and check this trailer out.
Okay, that'll be all for today.
Dr. Hausman,
Yes. What's this?
it's my address. I'm having a party at my house. I'd like it if you could come.
When?
Any day. Anytime you like.
Triple the glucose.
But we'll kill him. I know, but I don't want to run the risk of losing direction if it's too weak. The alpha and beta waves are increasing. The pressure's rising.
Enough! Enough! You got the guts to come back here, but
Get him over here.
you do not hurt me.
Willie, it's a chance I'm gonna have to take. I'm dying.
You can't go in the way.
How is he? I want to see him.
There's no use in you seeing him. Let's go. I'll drive you home.
No, I'll stay here. Mike, what's happened?
His organism. It's like.
Like what?
My God. It's not a degeneration gone crazy. It's an organic mutation.
Good old Metamorphosis. Man, that trailer fucking gave away everything, didn't? I can't believe how much that trailer gave away. Shout Factory or Scream Factory, it came out. I mean, same fucking shit, different smell. Man, trim back those trailers. You really didn't have much faith in that fucking movie to sell, did you? Looks like that Blu-ray they put out has Metamorphosis and Beyond Darkness on a double feature, so obviously they didn't think much of it. And looking upon the letterbox, and usually, you know how we do here on these episodes, I look for letterbox reviews of this thing. Nobody seems to like this movie at all. Tons of half-star, one-star reviews for some unknown reason. I personally really dug this movie. Now, most people would probably tell you Metamorphosis, and you could probably catch the wind of this Oh man, did that not record anything I was talking about? Was I sitting here live and my microphone wasn't even fucking on the entire time? Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Did anything record of this entire episode? Have I been on here for 20 fucking minutes and my microphone wasn't on? Is that really what has been going on? Unfucking real. Jesus fucking Christ. Do I need to start the episode all over again? I just noticed that I had no fucking audio level whatsoever. And then I push on my microphone and boop, there it is. Holy shit. I can't fucking believe that happened. Do we need to do take 2 on this? Because I don't think the audio was working at all in any of this. Oh, goddamn. I'd hate to do this. I hate to do this. I don't think it was working. Anybody that's watching, hey, let me know. To talk about it in the chat. This is a major fuck up. And I fucking hate that this happened. God damn it. So anyways, well, how about seeing as how none of this recorded, and I've been talking for 20 minutes, let's start the episode over. How fucking dumb. That is so fucking shitty. All right. That's what we're going to do. I got to do it. Let's start the episode over. God damn it.
Do you think it's safe to ask them?
Hear me. All you hosts gathered here.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
Well, I think we're about ready. Quiet, everyone.
Filth are my politics. Filth is my life.
From the whispers of the damned, deep within the bowels of hell. Welcome to Astro Radio Z.
Every once in a while in this world, folks, things just don't go the way you want them to. And tonight, on this episode of Astro Radio Z, we've had to do a retake. I can't believe, this is the foibles of having to do this live, is that every once in a while, you have technical snafus that fuck up everything. Well, that is this. That is our night tonight. And when you talk about, snafus and foibles, what better way to hold an episode than to talk about the body horror, scientific, mumbo-jumbo VHS movie Metamorphosis, and my second of the double feature that we always do on these fucking VHS episodes, the Brandon Lee vehicle laser mission. That's what we got going on tap tonight, folks. And for those of you that sat with me for 20 minutes live while my microphone wasn't on, I apologize. I apologize deeply. Here is the real version of Astro Radio Z Live episode 6. So before we talk about Metamorphosis for the second time, let's watch the goddamn motherfucking trailer that spoils fucking everything in this movie. God, I'm so fucking salty right now. I'm so salty right now, but hey, that's what we do sometimes here on this fucking podcast. We decided to do this live, and that's what happens sometimes. So here we go. Let's do it again. Here's the trailer for Metamorphosis.
Okay, that'll be all for today.
Dr. Passman,
Yes. What's this?
it's my address. I'm having a party at my house. I'd like it if you could come.
When?
Any day. Anytime you like.
Triple the glucose.
But we'll kill him.
I know, but I don't want to run the risk of losing direction if it's too weak.
The alpha and beta waves are increasing. The pressure's rising.
Get him over here.
Willie, it's a chance I'm gonna have to take. I'm dying.
You can't go anyway.
How is he? I want to see him.
There's no use in you seeing him. Let's go. I'll drive you home.
No. Stay here. Mike, what's happened?
His organism. It's like...
Like what?
Like God. It's not a degeneration gone crazy. It's an organic mutation.
Made in 1989, Metamorphosis is the kind of movie that I usually call home. Growing up in the VHS boom, I used to go to video stores and exclusively pick movies based on their covers. I think that's, a long running tradition here on Astro Radio Z. You all know it. It's well documented. But today, Metamorphosis is one of those covers, and I'll show it to you now, that there's no way you would have denied this movie at least a pickup, to pick it up and take a look at it. And now this cover in particular here with, the guy in the harness with a fucking needle about to go through his eye, on its own is an attractive looking fucking cover, right? But this one in particular was one of the few 3D embossed covers, along with like Black Roses and Dead Pit and Frankenhooker, that had gimmicks in order to pull you in even further. It wasn't just the rad looking artwork. It was the 3D and also this one, and it doesn't work anymore because it's fucking like 30 plus years old. If you press this button on there, his eyeballs should light up. So holy shit! You know, as a kid, you're like, oh man, I gotta see this fucking gimmick. But I don't think this movie needed that kind of hard sell. Because this is a wonderful little picture that came out of nowhere and hit me. I back in the day, used to pick this case up and look at it, but for some reason, never fucking took it home or rented it. And this is the first time for this episode that I've ever watched Metamorphosis. And I really do kick myself for it. Because Metamorphosis is one of those, I think, like, really unsung little monster movies that I really don't hear anybody talking about. Now, as we usually do here on Astro Radio Z, I usually look for like letterboxed reviews to sit and give you, funny, kind of like people taking the piss out of movies, right? I usually sit and find those kind of reviews, but for Metamorphosis, this isn't a very popular movie. Like, everyone was giving this thing 1.5 stars or half stars or 1 stars. And I think that is just total bullshit. Like, I don't understand what people's problem is with this movie. I found it entirely charming from an 80s Euro horror kind of way. And we'll get to that in a little bit, why I love that so much. But as we do here on Astro Radio Z for these VHS episodes, I'm going to read you the back of the box that we have here, because that is the proper way to sit and give you the plot synopsis of this movie. On the back, we have our tagline, says, "Witness the change." Metamorphosis is a stunning blend of horror and science fiction. Dr. Peter Houseman, a brilliant young scientist, believes he's found a cure to stop human aging forever. His discovery, however, has made him extremely unpopular among his colleagues, and they've insisted on cutbacks in his budget. Driven to the edge, Houseman becomes his own guinea pig and injects himself with the serum. The results are disastrous, and his metamorphic changes are uncontrollable. Witness the change. Metamorphosis, as you saw from the trailer, is pretty basic, run-of-the-mill scientist looking to combat some body ailment, and due to the fact that the place that is employing him are looking to make cutbacks in their budget and haven't seen any sort of like progress in his work, he decides to take matters into his own hands, inject the stuff into himself, and of course what happens? Nothing good. Nothing good could ever happen from taking an experimental goop and injecting it into your fucking ocular cavity. So of course he turns into some fucking creepy monster gimmick. So it's like it starts off as kind of like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. But then as the body horror starts coming into the fold, when this change, it starts mutating him, it becomes kind of like a knockoff of The Fly, essentially. So if you're looking for something that's, kind of like a little bit sleazy, cheap, Euro horror type Fly ripoff, this will fill that void just nicely. It is a breezy 1.5 hour watch, and I totally don't think that all the shitty fucking letterbox reviews do this thing justice. I didn't think this thing was bad at all. I actually think if you go over to my letterbox and take a look at the list that I have for all of these VHS episodes, I rank this as the best VHS we've watched so far. I know for a long time I had Snake Eater on there because, that fucking movie's hilarious. And if you guys haven't watched that Lorenzo Lamas fucking gimmick, Snake Eater, please go do so. I still plan on doing Snake Eater 2 and 3 at some point on this podcast. But Metamorphosis today just blew me the fuck away. when I watched it. I really had a good time with this thing, and I think it deserves your attention if you're into goofy, campy shit. So let's do what we usually do here on the VHS episodes. Let's get to the goods, the bads, and those special what the fuck moments that we always sit and crave in all of B cinema and trash cinema. So when we get to the goods, we have to talk about the reason why this thing got me hook, line, and sinker. And it was absolutely the fact from frame one. The music, the film stock, and the fonts that they used in the opening credit sequence made this feel like every 80s, 70s and 80s Euro horror movie that I ever saw. And it was like coming home. There was just a vibe those movies had because of that film stock and the audio mixing and those soundtracks, which, back at that time, every single fucking Euro horror movie had a knockoff Goblin soundtrack. It's like they heard Fabio Frizzi and they heard Claudio Simonetti and they just aped those fucking soundtracks and that sound. Every one of them had it. Mind you, a lot of those soundtracks were Claudio Simonetti and Fabio Frizzi. But this has all the hallmarks of that era and that feel. And as you saw in the trailer, there's a reason why. One of the huge actors that obviously took cues and got his opportunities from Euro horror, George Eastman, directed this thing. I couldn't fucking believe it. Out of fucking nowhere. Like, I never knew George Eastman was a director. Maybe I didn't dig that deep. Every time he popped up in a movie, I was extremely excited. I enjoy him. He is such a good presence in everything that he's in that when he popped up, his name popped up at the beginning of this, and I had that feel. I'm like, oh, what? George Eastman? So this is like an American-made movie with Euro horror sensibilities, and that shit is my fucking bag, baby. The camera work, the film stock, that text font, the really goofy pseudo-science with robots and other nonsense, alpha waves and beta waves and all this fucking stupid, mumbo-jumbo talk. And this has, to the T, and all those movies used to have this, a dreamy sex scene complete with synth sax music played over top of it. It's got it all. It's got goopy monsters, sax music, fucking heavy synth soundtrack. It's got everything, baby. It's all I need in life. All I need in life is these simple pleasures. And you got me. As I get older, I'm becoming a much easier gent to sit and please. I'm not as critical about all this shit as I used to be. As long as it's goofy and it pleases me and entertains me in some way, that's all I fucking care about. I really don't need to sit and nitpick everything and say it's a piece of shit. And that's why I'm so shocked by the letterbox reviews for Metamorphosis. It just didn't make much sense to me. So anyways, as I said, this has an amazing fucking synth soundtrack. It has really tight editing and some fun nightmare sequences that are mixed in that kind of toss this thing up. I really thought that they created a decent atmosphere with this movie compared to some of the other cheapo Italian stuff. This is no Bruno Mattei thrown together piece of shit. This actually had a good pace. I really dug it. Probably the star of this movie, though, having said that, is the ridiculously goofy and bloody special effects. The makeup effects and the gore effects, just chef's kiss. They are stupid enough that they had me hook, line, and sinker. When they started popping up and this dude started becoming a fucking monster, and I'm not going to ruin what he becomes, and it's going to be spoilers. I'll put spoilers on this thing. What he ultimately becomes is the goofiest fucking thing I've seen since a particular like certain Roger Corman movie from the 90s. And I'll relinquish that when we get to the what the fucks. But the special effects just are wonderful. I mean, his transformation, half of it's kind of like latex falling off of his face, but as it gets more and more elaborate, I was quite surprised by it. And this movie, oh, for those of you out there that don't like ocular trauma, there are multiple sequences where a half-foot fucking needle goes into this jabroni's eye. And Jesus fucking Christ. They do the whole fucking Lucio Fulci close-up eye with the fucking needle going into it. Like, I don't think, and I thought this when it was happening in this movie, I don't think a needle has to go directly into your eyeball. They go around it, right? They try to go around it and not penetrate the eye. No, not in this movie. They're like, that motherfucker's got to go right through. It's silly. I don't think that's how that works. I don't think scientists want to penetrate your eyeball. But it happens. That's one of those things here. Now, the cast of this movie, it's mostly no names and a lot of people that never like acted outside of this movie ever again. But there were a few names in this movie. Oh my God. The lead actor in this movie, who is our scientist, comes from one of my very favorite fucking trauma movies that ever was out there. Gene LeBrock. Now, those of you that are trauma fans should know his name. He is from one of the Acquisition movies, like one of my favorites, and it's silly and goofy. And I don't know if we've ever talked about it here on Astro Radio Z, but Fortress of America. He was the lead in fucking Fortress of America. Wonderful. He is the kind of like blank slate, typical, macho guy, but he's sexy enough to where, he could be considered, a pull for the ladies. So he's in this. Laura Gemser, for just like an eye blinker scene, is in this movie. And Laura Gemser. She was Black Emmanuel in so many movies. She is such a pleasant surprise to pop in this movie out of nowhere, even though her scene's a little fucking brutal. So I'll talk about that when we get to the bad. And also for the other name that was in this movie was Forey Ackerman. He's like in a real eye blinker cameo. Not really a big thing. You don't need to worry about it. But he's in this as well. And as I said, my last good of this movie is that it feels like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde after he takes the serum, because there's multiple instances in this movie where after he takes the serum, of course, he's like Brundlefly, where, oh man, I this is the best I ever felt my whole fucking miserable ass life. And then all of a sudden he starts having blackouts and nightmares because things are happening that he's not aware of, because the mutation and the change that's happening with him is taking over little by little. So at the beginning, there's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde mystery. But then when we find out that he's mutating into some other creature, it's straight up fucking Cronenberg's Fly. There's really no difference other than the fact that his love interest in this movie has a kid. So there's a kid angle, but we'll talk about that kid in just a little bit. Let's get to the bads, and that little bit is now. The child actor in this movie is the shits. He's not fucking good, but he's not really given much to fucking do in this movie. Let's admit that, like right off the bat. This kid, his whole range of expression is look pissed. That's it. That's all he does in this whole movie is look like give the fucking shit eye to everyone. He says one word, and he says nope. That's the only dialogue this kid is given the entire movie. So his whole direction is one word, nope, and shit eye. That's it. So you got to put up with that kind of shit. And I know longtime listener Mikey K is going to fucking go, oh, nope, I can't handle that kind of shit. So anti-fucking child actor, that guy. So you got to deal with that. There's the occasional, and this comes, par for the course, occasional odd audio mixing choices. There's scenes where things are pretty quiet, and then other scenes where it's so fucking loud that it doesn't make any sense. So, and maybe that's an old man gripe. Like, I've gotten to that point in my life right now where I'm in my later 40s, and everything, I don't want to sit and have to jerk off the fucking volume button. Mind you, I think we've become accustomed to highly compressed mixes to where everything is brick walled at this point, and there's no subtlety and no like dynamic range to anything that we listen to on TVs, because everything, like, most people don't have like surround systems at home anymore. At most, they have a sound bar, and at least it's just the fucking TV speakers. So they got to try and like make it so everybody can hear what's going on, and unfortunately, it's just like, oh, there's no subtlety to any of the noise, and I think we've become accustomed to it. So then when we watch things that were mixed in a different way for like theaters that had surround mixes and stuff like that, or that had systems that where you could hear soft scenes and the loud scenes just fine, it's a little shocking to the old senses. Also because, I mean, when these things go up for streaming, they compress the shit out of them, right? So anyways, you got to deal with weird audio mixing choices, and that was a tangent, I realize, and I apologize for that. The next bad I have goes with the Laura Gemser part, and all of the violence for about 2/3 of this movie is specifically directed towards women. So I had a conversation with somebody today that was asking me about the movies we were going to talk about here on Astro Radio Z tonight, and they usually like the kind of goofy ass shit that I pick for these VHS episodes, and they were female, so I was explaining the movie to them. They're like, oh yeah, that sounds really fun, I'd like to actually watch that. I'm like, but mind you, there are 2 sequences in this movie, one involving Laura Gemser, that are pretty hard, brutally violent sequences towards women. So those of you out there that have either experienced trauma or even hard R's, and I'm not going to drop that word right now, you might have a problem. Now, there's not necessarily any hard R's in this movie. It's implied, but you find out later on that that's not really the case. Doesn't really like make up for the fact that the violence is kind of sexually charged. But so there's that kind of stuff in this movie. The last half of this movie, however, I mean the last act of this movie is just a silly monster on the loose picture where the guy is just ripping throats out of people left and right. It doesn't matter who they are. Everyone's gonna fucking die that crosses this guy. But just know there's a couple sequences that are pretty, brutal violence against women in this movie. And there's this weird aspect to those sequences where, for some reason, Peter, our lead, the scientist that is mutating, keeps going back to the scene of the crime to figure out what happened, and then having to, like, soothe the victim, who obviously doesn't want to be around him. It's a weird angle, and it didn't make much sense why they even would include it. They should have just excised it and accepted that, like, had some sort of report that said these things were happening. But for some reason, we have these like re-traumatizing scenes where he comes back to the victims and like soothes them. And it's just really fucking weird. And I didn't think it was necessary. The what the fucks in this movie. One is super goofy. So, in a lot of low budget movies, you have like one take snafus where you have these productions have had to sit and rush through everything and don't necessarily get the opportunity to do multiple takes of anything. Well, there's a scene where the lead female love interest runs out into the garage to get in the car because she's found out that her child has been kidnapped by the monster guy. Jumps in, goes over, lifts up the garage door, runs to her car and gets in to turn it on. And the garage door, and this is totally unintentional. This was it was one take and they weren't going to do it again. The garage door starts coming back down accidentally, and she has to jump out and go, God damn it! And run over and put it back up and then drive out. I was like, what the fuck? You couldn't have done a second take of that? Maybe George E. Smith thought that, oh man, that feels real. We got to keep that baby in. It was so fucking weird. And the last what the fuck, and I'm going to put spoilers here. We got to put spoilers here. So if you don't want to have the ending of Metamorphosis ruined for you, please skip forward like 30 seconds to a minute. Starting now. The last what the fuck is his ultimate form that he changes into is a fucking mini T-Rex. And it's the goofiest looking shit this side of Carnosaur. Like, it is straight up trash, but it's fucking so charming and stupid that I absolutely was just like, I popped. I was up there giving claps, yes chants, all that shit. That's the kind of goofy ass shit that I look for in these movies. And then ultimately, the final scene, he turns into like one of those tiny anole lizards. It's like, what? What a doozy of an ending. What a doozy of an ending. And that's Metamorphosis. If any of this sounded like your wheelhouse, please, by all means, it's on Tubi. Both of these movies are on Tubi. So please go check this one out for sure. I know you're not going to probably be able to find this VHS, but it's on Tubi. You know, probably the greatest fucking streaming service for B movies that's out there. Go check it out. And it's actually, because Scream Factory put this thing out, it's a good transfer. It looks really nice on Tubi. So anyways, that's what we got. Big thumbs up on Metamorphosis. Now we are going to switch over to our second, which, whew, I know how to choose them, as they say. It is Brandon Lee's movie, as he stars in it. He didn't direct this thing. Laser Mission. So let's quick watch the trailer, and we'll be back and talk about Laser Mission.
From Turner Home Entertainment.
Can I ask you a personal question? You carry a gun, and you're not afraid to use it. You can outdrive the best of them. Who are you, and who are you working for?
Agent Michael Gold has a mission on his mind.
You didn't tell me who he was or why he was so important.
The enemy on his tail.
Alyssa! You people blew this operation from the start.
And this woman on his back.
You're not my idea of a dream date.
This unlikely couple is out to recover the ultimate weapon. Laser Mission.
Lisa. Espionage. Execution is a dawn of tomorrow.
With the Virbeck diamond and my laser, I can create a nuclear weapon.
They give it to you with both barrels in this international thriller, packed full of action and intrigue.
You kill me with your stupid...
I knew you could do it.
You did?
Laser Mission.
Boy, both of the trailers this episode basically give away the entire fucking movie. Thankfully for you guys that are listening to this in the audio version of this podcast, you didn't see half of the shit that happened in that fucking trailer that we just watched. But Laser Mission is a completely different kind of beast, and I love doing this on these VHS episodes where I pick two completely different genre movies. Laser Mission is your basic bitch 80s, 90s direct-to-video espionage action movie, complete with a lead that is spewing off one-liners the entire time. This is the kind of movie that just doesn't get made anymore. And I think Brandon Lee, for the most part, doesn't have a huge catalog of films, because obviously he died on the set of The Crow, but and that movie tends to overshadow everything else that he was in. I mean, he had Showdown in Little Tokyo, but this movie, Laser Mission, I think is a movie that if you're a fan of these kind of movies, these really lighthearted kind of like silly action movies from the 90s, this totally should be in your wheelhouse. And again, it's on Tubi. Both these movies are on Tubi, so you have no reason not to go watch these. But I was really, again, pleasantly surprised. This is an episode where I get to sit and talk about movies I actually like. Not like my fucking podcast, Worst Movies Ever, where all we fucking do is talk about shit-ass stuff. And where do you find that? On the Astro Radio Z Patreon right here. Go ahead and give a few schmeckles over to me, and you can listen to that podcast where I sit and like mostly bitch about fucking movies. So anyways, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. Laser Mission tonight, folks, is the story, and what we do here, as always, and let me shine the light so I can actually see, because holy crap, this is like the text on this box is ridiculous. I gotta turn this up, otherwise I won't be able to fucking read this thing. Laser Mission, the synopsis on the back. Oh my God, there's so much text on this fucking box. On the front, his assignment: find the world's most dangerous laser weapon or take the heat. Her assignment: turn up the heat. In the style of Hard to Kill, Brandon Lee heats up the screen in this non-stop action adventure. So you have Brandon Lee, Debbie Monahan as the female lead in this, and then they top bill Ernest Borgnine. Who is this in this movie? He is this guy who knows the secrets of lasers. He really knows lasers and how to use them with a very specific diamond that they had to find. And if whoever finds this fucking diamond and gets him and combines his knowledge with this diamond, they can take over the world and start World War III. The stupidest fucking plot you could ever come up with. Basic bitch shit. But for a movie like Laser Mission, totally serviceable. Totally serviceable. So anyways, let's get to the actual description on the back of this box. Now, I hope you guys have some popcorn and drinks, because this is going to take me a minute to sit and read. It's a bomb-basting, bullet-dodging, car-crashing, helicopter-chasing, roller coaster ride of action and thrills as Brandon Lee, the son of legendary Bruce Lee, takes on an army of spies and killers. He's a renegade government agent. His mission: find the top-secret Soviet laser weapons operation and bring back the scientist played by Ernest Borgnine, who holds a lethal formula that could destroy the world. The action heats up when he gets too close to the scientist's spirited and sexy daughter, played by Debbie Monahan. So close that the heat of their desires ignites a fire neither of them wants to put out. Okay, all right. Focus. Collect yourself, Derek. She keeps the heat on as he uses every weapon known to man, including his skills in the martial arts in a style that recalls his father's mastery. Exploding with thrills, sizzling with excitement, Laser Mission is an adventure that blasts you out of the ordinary at the speed of light. My God, so unnecessary. That was the selling point back in the day, right? They had to write novels on the back of these fucking boxes. Unlike now where you go on to fucking streaming services and whoever writes those fucking synopsises obviously never fucking watched the movie. But anyways, let's not go down a fucking path that we don't need to with that. Laser Mission, as I said before, is a kind of a lighthearted romp. I loved this movie. I thought it was fun. It's not the greatest thing I ever watched. I mean, mind you, I don't think these kind of movies have to be like that. But I definitely give it a thumbs up. Let's get to the good, the bads, and the what the fucks. This movie starts in the most 80s way possible. People shooting and loading guns and packing up like Rambo style to a montage and a ridiculous fucking song. Usually on these episodes of Astro Radio Z, I don't play music, because that was a main reason why I had to change the format of this podcast, was because of music rights. and I don't want to get dinged anymore for that, but I think we can play just a little hint of the theme song of fucking Laser Mission because it is absolutely necessary. This is like the only bit of soundtrack in this entire movie is this song, and it gets stuck in your head over and fucking over again. So let's turn this thing on, and let's change this over, and I want you guys to hear this fucking ridiculous ass song. It's totally necessary. Oh wait, I don't think it's playing the right.
From Turner Home Entertainment.
Okay, bear with me, guys. For some reason, it's not going. There we go. If it'll come up, watch. Now all of a sudden my internet doesn't want to work. This is the beauty of trying to do this live, right?
Where you hear the siren scream, he only knows where he is going to. It's like a dream within a dream. His heart beats like a hammer, like the backbeat of a song, and the fire burns within him, and he knows he don't belong, but he must be strong. He's a mercenary man. Mercenary man. Mercenary man. Mercenary man.
This song, I'm telling you, man, this thing plays like over and over again this entire fucking movie. And you know how charming that shit is when you sit and you find a that really super duper cheesy ass fucking theme song that a lot of these 80s action movies had. Jean-Claude Van Damme movies had these things all over them. And this movie in particular, because of that ridiculous song in that opening montage, again, another movie that fucking got me hook, line, and sinker right away. And it had, from the first scene until about halfway through this movie, the vibe of those late 80s, early 90s Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. It's just a light-hearted romp, and it's camp like almost all around. There's a lot of like non-actors delivering great lines and halfway decent action in this movie. I mean, mind you, a lot of the action in this movie is the kind of commando style run and gun type shit. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where fucking our lead actor, who's Brandon Lee in this movie, as we had said before, literally uses every single gun and doesn't aim the fucking thing and shoots and hits every time. Like, everyone around him that are like his adversaries sit and unload clips and never fucking hit him once. But all he has to do is just go and he kills every last motherfucker on screen. It's that kind of movie. So if you're looking for realism, it's out the window. This is the kind of thing where Brandon Lee is a superhero, essentially, and could just do no fucking wrong, kicks everyone's fucking ass, and has a funny quip one-liner to throw right back at him at all times. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, this movie has it in spades. I would say for about half of it. But let's not ruin it just yet. The actors, for the most part, in this movie, a lot of non-actors, but Ernest Borgnine is silly with his really ridiculously silly accent as the scientist. I think Debbie Monahan does an admirable job with what she's given. I mean, she's essentially like a double agent put on with fucking spoilers. She's a double agent in this movie with Brandon Lee, but becomes his love interest in the thing. And she's charming and cute and a lot of fun and kind of hot. So it helps a lot, right? And Brandon Lee, while he is, not the best actor on earth, and obviously was brought on because of his dad, and because, let's admit it, he's hot. He's a good looking dude. Is charming enough in this movie to carry the role and carry the movie. Every scene that he's in is helped because he's in it. So they knew what they were doing bringing him in. And it was really nice to see it. There's just not enough Brandon Lee movies in this world, and I wish there were more. Because every single one that I've seen, I've really enjoyed. And it's just a fucking shame that he's no longer with us. Because I thought about this while I was watching this movie and enjoying his performance. It was just like, man, just think if that accident hadn't happened and what kind of trajectory his career would have taken after this. I got a question. I got to put this out there to you guys. Do you think Brandon Lee would have been a big, huge star? Or do you think maybe The Crow only became what it was because of his death? That's something I've wondered and like pondered for many, many years. But watching Laser Mission today, it's clear the guy has like charm up the wazoo. This like really fun to watch. And I like really am sad that we didn't get more movies with him because I think we really missed out as cinema fans to have Brandon Lee in our world more than he is. But thankfully, if you're into like really lighthearted kind of action movies with a very charming lead, Brandon Lee does the job in this. Mind you, this is a plot in a movie that you've seen 1.5 million times. Nothing's at stake in this movie. You know that they're going to come out the other side of this thing, and it's not spoilers. You know that nothing bad's going to happen to them. And it's just one of those you would turn on a Saturday afternoon on cable, and it would just be there, and it's fun, and it's like unoffensive in almost every way, other than some portrayals of foreigners. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So Brandon Lee is great in this. And Brandon Lee, at one point, and this is the final good I'll have, because, I mean, this movie, there's not a whole lot to talk about with this thing. If you picture this as just like one of those really easygoing, charming 80s action movies, you know exactly what this is. There's really not a whole lot that's going to be surprising to you. But the final battle in this movie, and another spoilers, fast forward another 30 seconds to a minute here. Brandon Lee kills the main bad guy. Well, he gets killed 3 times because he keeps coming back. But he shoots this guy, and they're in a cave, and he falls down this crevasse and turns into a black man. So there's a stunt double that's not even his fucking race. I love when that shit happens. It's like fucking Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park, right? I fucking Ace Frehley, like switching races left and oh god, just fucking wonderful. I love that shit. So, anyways, there's some goofy shit that happens in this. The bads of this movie. The accents and characterizations of people of different cultures and colors are pretty one note and at times can be seen as a little offensive. But I think in general, the entire movie is just silly. I mean, it all takes place in Africa. So there's like this Russian-African connection in this movie. All the Russians really play up the Russian aspect. And there's a couple people that are supposed to be from, I believe, Cuba, and their portrayal is kind of the one thing in this movie you could point to, like, I don't know, guys. Like, they're obviously supposed to be like comedic characters that are the lighthearted, like, oh, these are just jokey characters. But now looking at them, it's obvious that they're just like really crass, broad characterizations of Cubans, and it's just like I don't know about that. I don't know about that. While I love that theme song, The Mercenary Man, as I had said before, they play it almost fucking constantly the entire movie. So you better like that fucking theme song, because you're going to hear it over and over and over again. Mind you, it creates a really nice like vibe, because the music is that kind of like, oh God, I just can't stop saying this. It feels like every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie I've ever watched, like Kickboxer and Bloodsport and all that shit. But come on, guys, let's hear something else in this movie. This movie, and this is a ding against it, the movie is fairly generic. And at no point are you invested in the life or death or danger of the situation that any of these characters are going through, which some people could see as a positive, that at least they don't have, they could just passively watch this fun little romp. But if you like are wanting to like really pay attention to this, you don't have to. It can just be on the background and it's just fine, right? After the halfway point of this movie, when our duo winds up in the desert, this movie fucking like takes a nosedive. Like there's a long stretch of this movie that's them walking around in the desert, and it's after like this really kind of like punchy, fun first act. The second act in the desert, where they're trying to find their way to Ernest Borgnine, is a slog. It's a real slog, and it's disappointing because I don't believe, even with the action-packed finale of this movie, the last act, you don't really recover too much from that second act. And it's a real damn shame. It's a real damn shame. I understand why they did it. I mean, story-wise, with what was going on, but it's a shame because you went from something that was almost like silly James Bondy, where Brandon Lee is also like a master of disguise, this double agent who goes, there's a scene where he flies down and has a shitty mustache and has to like overact things, which I found was really fucking funny. And then it just kind of kills it for a while, which is goddamn disappointing. The major bad guy, when he dies, it's cut like the final sequence where he gets shot down that crevasse, like I said, and there's a bunch of other shit that happens, is cut in a way that makes me feel like it was edited for content. And it doesn't make any sense why they would have done that unless they were asked to by distributors for some unknown reason. It didn't work. It was a really bad edit when the vast majority of this movie is super punchy and made really well. It's too bad that this one scene is just really herky-jerky and makes no fucking sense at all. One of the main bads I have of this, and it's not really a critique of this movie, it's a critique of like action films in general now. Why don't we get movies like this anymore? Why don't we get these really like lighthearted, silly action movies with somebody that's a little larger than life and just does silly fucking shit and gets away with it and vanquishes this idiotic bad guys? It's just like charming action adventure movies with new action heroes. And I don't want to see, come on, let's move on. I mean, I'm glad I see Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme and stuff, but come on now, guys, let's get some new fresh faces and do some silly ass shit like this. They just don't make these movies anymore. These movies are relegated to Tubi, like really shittily made. Like, remember when I did that episode about the, was that the February challenge? And I watched all those fucking Stone Cold movies. That was kind of what they were attempting to do, some of this stuff, but it was so shittily made because it was for no budget with people that just, I don't believe, really made those kind of movies. Just disappointing. It's just really disappointing to me that we don't get really silly action movies like this anymore. So anyways, that was more of a tangent than it was anything to do with this movie. It's not a bad for this movie. It's a bad for us as action movie fans. And we just don't get stuff like this anymore. And the final bad, and I don't have any what the fucks with this movie, to be honest. There were none. There were none because they were just like, yeah, I've seen this a million times. Nothing really jumped out at me as being, what the hell is that? The final bad is there's a standoff scene in the desert. And this was the weirdest fucking scene in this movie. So there's a sequence where Danny and Brandon are walking alone in the desert because they went and infiltrated this camp, and like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando blew everything up and got away scot-free. And they're wandering through the desert, and suddenly this guy comes from the other horizon on a horse and starts taking pot shots with his rifle at them. Of course he's not hitting them at all. So Brandon Lee like casually turns around and looks at this guy. And this guy just keeps shooting at them, slowly takes out his fucking pistol, walks down, and they're like 50 feet from each other. This guy with the rifle couldn't hit the broadside of a fucking barn. Brandon Lee pulls up his gun and just shoots him dead. And they're like 20 feet away from each other. What the fuck was that? No one can hit this guy. There's like a force field around Brandon Lee in this movie. Not one motherfucker can shoot worth a pinch of shit in this goddamn thing. But having said that, I quite enjoyed Laser Mission for what it was. Not the greatest movie I've ever seen, but also not the worst. You could, if you're looking for something really inoffensive, something that's light, that you could sit and toss on, it's on Tubi, as I said. You could do a lot worse than Laser Mission. If you like Brandon Lee, please go check this thing out. I quite enjoyed it. So that's the end of our episode with the VHS. And excuse me, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'll tell you about the next episode of VHS and the 2 that I picked out for that. And we're going to talk a little 31 Days of Horror. So please, can you please, for me, stick around? Please.
This is Astro Radio Z, and we love talking about movies with you. If you are looking for more episodes and want to become part of the show, go to patreon.com/Astro Radio Z and become a monthly subscriber to have access to 100+ bonus episodes of content. Jump in. Make Astro Radio Z yours and become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Astro Radio Z.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with me this episode. I fully apologize for those of you that tuned in, and there were a bunch of you that tuned in and tuned out because my fucking microphone wasn't on, so we had to start the fucking whole episode all over again. Oh, I feel fucking awful about that shit. Really fucking awful about it, but you know what? I'm still learning how to do these fucking live episodes, and sometimes there are technical snafus that happen. So I apologize for that, and thank you for sticking around. Those of you that are listening in the audio version, obviously that don't mean fucking shit to you, but doesn't matter. So next episode of VHS, which will be in a couple episodes, we're going to be covering Ghost Town, which is a movie that I saw a trailer for on one of my other VHS tapes that we've covered here on the show. And this trailer, fucking, I don't know why I've never seen this movie, but holy fuck. We're talking a Western horror movie, supernatural Western horror movie. And this thing fucking looks like $1 million. I can't wait to see this thing. I'm really excited. Ghost Town. And a lot of you out there are going to know this tape. Lyle Alzado in Destroyer. We're going to talk about this one next week. Or not next week, the next VHS episode. So please, come on back for that. I'm excited to watch both of these. They both look silly. Look at this one. Fucking Anthony Perkins is in Destroyer, along with goddamn Lyle Alzado. That's fucking exciting. I want to say I've seen Destroyer before. My memory's awful, though. I mean, as I get older, there's a lot of shit that I swear I've seen and that I haven't. Or maybe because I've watched so much shit, my brain just pushes it out for other stuff that's coming in. You know what I mean? So that's what we're going to be covering the next VHS episode of Astro Radio Z. Next episode, however, is going to be my dear friend, Rob Poole, who I had on, oh my God, it must have been like the first season of Astro Radio Z way back in 2012, when he was running IndieHorror.tv. I had him on for an interview about it, but he reached out to me when I revamped this and decided to bring it on back. He wants to come on and do an episode, and he chose, and it was really curious why he chose these particular movies, but I said, hey, what do you want to do the episode on? He chose The Ruins and Turistas. Not typically movies we cover here on fucking Astro Radio Z, but I have not seen Turistas. So I'm kind of excited to see this, even though I have a feeling I'm not going to like it. I like The Ruins. At least I did way back then. But I have not seen it. So that's going to be the next episode of Astro Radio Z. Now, you know, this episode is taking place October 19th of 2023. And we are fully into 31 Days of Horror. And I got to be honest with you, because of all the shit that's been going on with the multiple fucking conventions I've been to, it's been too much. I haven't kept up on it, and I already lost the fucking thread. I believe, let's see here. Oh, I didn't even get like 12 days in, and then I had to throw in the towel. It's a goddamn shame. I lost the fucking challenge. So I'm just like, watching. I suppose Metamorphosis could count. It is a horror movie, but I'm not really pounding out the movies the way that I was back in the day. I'll share my fucking screen here so we can look at. Here's my Letterboxd. I always do this every single fucking year, is I make a list of all the movies on Letterboxd that I watch for 31 Days of Horror. And this year, I was trying to watch all new watches, like all stuff that I had never seen before. And most of it was brand new stuff, mind you. Except for my bud, Dr. AC, had me on. And those of you that follow me on social media and are on the Patreon know I posted the episode. My bud, Dr. AC, who has a channel on YouTube, had me come on to talk about The Sadness. So The Sadness, and I had to screen Hole in the Wall, so obviously I saw that. And they also screened Redneck Zombies, which we've talked about in an episode of Astro Radio Z in the past. Those movies I had seen before, but everything else that I watched were all new watches. And I think I only want to really talk about, like, the good stuff that I watched. Because, I mean, I watched some really terrible stuff. There's a sequel to fucking Todd Cook's Evil Night, Another Evil Night. Total fucking piece of shit. Pet Sematary Bloodlines came out, and while it wasn't worse than the remake, it wasn't fucking good. This is going to be the most shocking thing, I think, for most people. I absolutely hated The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I have not seen a more pointless movie in a long time than that movie. To just round that up, what the explanation we got in the original Dracula about what happened on that cruise ship was all we needed. We did not need a 2-hour-long movie where Dracula every night sits and picks off people on a ship. Like, literally the most boring fucking movie ever. Sure, mind you, Dracula looks fucking great. And the gore is good. But what a fucking boring movie. What a boring movie. And the worst movie I watched, Scream of the Blind Dead. I don't want to say much about this thing. I don't know why I keep giving Chris Alexander chances with his movies. This movie was it was pointless. It was so stupid. Don't fucking watch it. It's terrible. But the good stuff that I watched that I do want to talk about, Hellbender. Have you guys seen this movie? It's on Shudder. If you are into like folk horror, this is kind of like a witchcraft movie. mixed with like it's not heavy metal, but it's a very heavily music-based movie where this mother-daughter witch team have their own band. So it's like a coming of age movie mixed with a horror movie. Light on plot, but heavy on atmosphere, and made on a shoestring budget by a family during the fucking lockdown. God, I fucking really liked Hellbender. I think you guys should check that one out. And surprisingly enough, and I never thought I was going to say this about another fucking full moon movie ever again, especially a Puppet Master movie. Dr. Death, the offshoot movie for the Puppet Master franchise, was surprisingly good. It's only an hour long. The special effects and the editing, so good. Variety in shot selection. Mind you, a lot of the sets looked hokey. The acting across the board is pretty piss poor. But that's, par for the course for all of these full moon movies. But this movie at least fucking tried. And I think it was probably one of the better Puppet Master movies since the first trilogy. I'm not kidding. I was really surprised by that movie because I've written off Full Moon almost entirely at this point. They really don't put out anything that's worth shit anymore at all. So that's what we got going on here. 31 Days of Horror. It's very disappointing that I fucking really gave up fucking essentially with 31 Days of Horror this year. But you know what? Sometimes life gets you by the balls, and that's what fucking happens. So anyways, I hope you guys are doing well. And thank you for joining me on this very herky-jerky stupid episode of Astro Radio Z. Hopefully next episode I don't fuck it up the way I fucked this one up. So until next time, guys, please take care of yourselves. And I really hope to see you soon. Adios.
Oh, that's good shit, man.